Hi, welcome to Bucking with Buckzey. Today, we're going to be just chatting about some stuff that's going on in the world, and then we're going to dive into some other segments that I think you guys are going to enjoy. I want to preface this with saying I am in no way, shape, or form a expert on economics, but I decided that it'd be interesting to go over some kind of economic stuff with you guys, especially because I wanted to do some sort of a news segment, and I wanted to stay away from all that Palestine and Israel stuff because that's covering the headlines today. But today, we're just going to be talking about an article from the Wall Street Journal called The Elusive Soft Landing is Coming into View. This is, of course, gotta give credit to the authors, it's by David Harrison and Jeffrey Sparshot. Basically, this article goes into inflation that was caused from legislation that was a direct result of the COVID crisis, which, obviously something had to be done. Was it the best thing? I don't know. So let's talk about what's going on with the inflation. So basically, this article talks about how inflation is down to 2%, or is going down to 2%, which is great. It's good for the economy. That's a healthy level of inflation, we like to call it. And this is rebounding back from a 40-year high, a 4-decade-long high, as they describe in this article, of 9%, which was last year. So this is obviously a good thing. On top of this, wage gains are slowly decreasing, which may sound like a bad thing on the surface, but it's actually a pretty good thing generally for the economy. Obviously, we want wage gains to kind of match inflation and if not go up. I mean, right now, Americans they're kind of suffering from lack of buying power, but I think honestly, this is something that it's been a problem for years. I don't see it solving. One thing that's an issue is that if, an argument for raising the minimum wage, for example, is that they should absolutely do it and give more Americans buying power. But it can't be done as quickly as everybody would like to think, including me, as much as I would like for it to happen. The important thing to consider here is that when wage prices are going to go up, that means also prices for in general are going to go up because people are going to have to pay more wages in order to get those products, right? Basically, what's going on is with the inflation, interest rates rise to curb inflation because that's generally a pretty good way to slow down the economy because inflation just means you got an overactive economy. Federal Reserve has to increase interest rates, but at what cost? This is going to cause the US economy to essentially slow down a bit. Just because as interest rates rise, people are less likely to make more and more higher level purchases, right? Basically, inflation is going down. That's a good thing. Wage gains are going down. That's a good thing. US economy is going to suffer a bit, but the ramifications of which we are going to have to see. I don't want to keep this too long. So that concludes the boring part of today. So in this segment, which I like to call For the Streets, this week, we're going to go over some streetwear reviews. I'm going to go over some of the stuff that I saw that's dropping this week that I think is pretty cool. And we're going to kind of go off of that. My favorite brand, one of my favorite brands, Supreme, they're dropping pretty much the only two cool things that they're really dropping this week. They have this fuck 'em neon sign, which is fucking dope as shit. I think it's really, really cool. On top of that, they also got balaclavas or shiesties, as they're commonly referred to in the streets. I mean, they're a staple of Supreme at this point. And other than that, there's nothing really to write home about. It's kind of a lackluster week, other than really those two products. On top of that, we got ASAP Rocky's Puma F1 collab. So it comes out Friday on Puma's website. They have those skeleton gloves that are coming out, which are really, really cool. I think it would be like an interesting piece to match with that Supreme Ghost hoodie that, Juice wore in that. I think he wore it in a freestyle. Travis Barker has also worn it. I think Shane Gillis has one, if I'm not mistaken. They on top are also releasing their own kind of version of the balaclava. It's really interesting. It's like this knitted thing. It has like a little F1 thing hanging out. I think it's a cool thing, and I think it's really important that Rocky's releasing them. I mean, he did popularize the balaclava, sort of. Well, most other things are fairly simple, which I personally like, but I can definitely see how some people are going to kind of think that it's a little lackluster, a little simple. And then lastly, the Palace Kappa F1 collab. Personally, it's a little too complex for me. The jacket's okay. I don't really rock with the patches they have, like on the sleeves and I think like on the chest here. On top of that, the back also has, the famous Palace logo. But, it seems to have kind of a lot going on. Without having a lot going on, I don't really know how else to describe it. You can see it here. But I don't know. It's really not my style. So I'm personally not gonna cop anything from that. But I do want to say too, the art direction for the campaign, like the promotion that they did for it, was really, really sick. Coming from a photographer's background, I thought it was really cool, and I think that it was pretty well done. So hats off to you, Palace and Kappa. Good campaign. All right, next for for the streets. Basically, we're gonna cover everything that drops from the 15th to the 22nd here, because we're going week by week basis here. So starting on the drop tomorrow, which is 11/16, we have the Air Force One chocolates. Not really my cup of tea. I like brown shoes personally. The Air Force One silhouette, you can't go wrong with just all white, and I think that's ultimately the staple you got to stick with. We have the LeBron 2 Maple and University Reds. Honestly, I think these are hideous pieces of shit. It's just so whack and so ugly, and I don't know how you would ever wear these unless you're playing basketball on them. And lastly, for tomorrow, we got the Converse Casina Weapons. I think they're way too much. I could see like dancers wearing them. They seem like a dance shoe to me. Like hip hop dancers, but other than that, I don't really see the point. As for tomorrow, the 11/17 drop, we got the Nike Air Humaras, deep blue and light ultramarine, deep royal blue. They're not great. They seem like an okay dad shoe, but you might want to wait on these. Probably aren't gonna sell out. Saturday on the 18th, we got probably the coolest drop of this week, in my opinion. We have the Jordan 4 Crafts. They're like this olive and kind of like white black color. Really sick. I think it's a goated combo, that olive, green, black, and white. It could be a really clean shoe to go out in. Maybe you pair it with some green corduroys, some brown corduroys. Fours are also my personal favorite Jordan, so I could see how I could be a little biased. But in my opinion, these are just clean shoes. On Saturday, we got the Terminator High Alabama A&M Universities. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the Terminator silhouette, but otherwise, they're an okay color. If you like Terminators, I think it's a cop. And then we have the Air Footscape Wovens. I think it's a cool fucking concept. They're only coming out in women's sizes tomorrow, so yeah. If they were on men, I think I would cop. And then on the 21st, we have the Jordan 13 Wheats. Not a huge fan of Jordans after the 11th edition, but shoe looks bulky. If they had this colorway but in other shoes, I think it would be an absolute cop. If they had it in 1s, 4s, 6s, 11s, I think it would be a dope cop. But other than that, now that we're done with the streetwear section of today, I think that it'll be a good time to move on to our movie of the week. This is personally one of my favorite segments. I'm a huge movie buff, and I can't wait to bring you guys a movie of the week, something new that I watch every single week. And one movie that's been on my mind, I've been recommending it to everyone since I watched it. It has to be A Million Miles Away, directed by Alejandro Marquez. And this movie is based on the story of Jose M. Hernandez, who persevered through life to become one of the first migrant astronauts at NASA. He worked in the fields growing up in California and persevered through life to become an astronaut. It's a really touching and heartwarming movie. It hit really close to home for me. My parents are from Brazil, and it really hit home with like the language barriers and things like that. This movie, to be honest with you, made me cry. It was super cute, awesome, and it's really motivating for me. It shows you that really anybody can do anything if you put your mind to it. Moving on, we got our song of the week. This is another song that I've been recommending to everyone, and it's been on pretty much repeat since I found it. It's called Things You Do to Me. It's by Eric Doa featuring Breakins. It's a hyperpop song, great verses from both artists. They're kind of talking about love and things that a girl does to them. The beat is catchy, and Breakins, to be honest with you, throughout his verse is singing like the rent is due. It's one of his best verses ever. If you haven't heard about Breakins or listened to Breakins, highly recommend that you listen to him. And lastly, the beer of the week for all of you guys who are over 21. It's a Fuzzy Duck IPA. It's by New England Brewing Company. It's a great taste. It's not too hoppy. It's a little dry for my tasting. But overall, it's citrusy. not too hoppy. It's a great beer.